If you're like me, you don't only use the Game Awards to get overhyped by game trailers for 3 hours, but you also use it to see what games might have slipped through your radar. When a game I pay no mind to throughout the whole year gets mentioned all show, I go, this time around, this game was on my radar, and after winning the big one and nobody really crying wolf, it just shot up to the top of my list. And that game is It Takes Two. I remember the 2020 Game Awards when Joseph Fares announced the reveal trailer for It Takes Two. If that name sounds familiar to you, he's this guy.
Okay. Fuck the Oscars, you know? Fuck the Oscars! Fuck you! I'll tell you! This is bullshit!
But he's not just like a random guy who went rogue at an award show. He's slowly becoming a top-of-the-line game designer, one who can't miss. I've played all his games. Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, A Way Out, and now It Takes Two. What all these games have in common is the fact that they're couch co-ops, which is a mode I feel is sadly dying. It has already evolved into online co-op, but there's nothing better than yelling at your teammate to their face.
You're not good enough! Piss off, you donkey!
Anyway, these games are not only fun co-ops, they're heavily story-based, touching on themes like death, struggle, and real life. Which brings me to It Takes Two. It Takes Two is an action-adventure, platformer, shooter, puzzle. Well, it has everything, but most importantly, it's a split-screen couch co-op, where you and a buddy play as Cody and May, a married couple that are planning on getting a divorce. After telling their daughter Rose, she cries over her dolls that look like her parents, and because children tears are magic, they get trapped as the dolls. Then a relationship book pops up speaking in riddles and crazy Antonio Banderas accent. The journey is a wild, fun one. You go from fighting vacuum cleaners to riding toads to helping squirrels on a full-on war against wasps.
Watch for wasps, because they'll sting you and then you look like me.
To fighting octopuses and ice skating in a little town. The vast differences from level to level are very impressive, not only visually but gameplay wise as well. You go from sliding down a hill to driving a rocket to shooting nails to spraying water and becoming grass and flowers. It truly is amazing everything they managed to cram in this game, and they do it as well as any game that just sticks to one of these forms of gameplay. Another impressive thing is they managed to avoid rubber banding, which is an issue most split screen games have, of making you feel tethered to your friend, like you can't go too far away from them. While you still need them to do most of the activities, there's an enormous amount of solo exploration and freedom, with no invisible walls that can't let you progress, or that feeling of having a leash linked to player 2. You obviously can't get too far without help, but it's nice to have that freedom of exploration. And the game is not afraid of letting you go look at it alone. It's super impressive because it feels like you're each playing your own platformer at the same time. And while you're exploring, you might come across a competitive minigame that puts you two against each other. Something so simple, it just blends with the environment so effortlessly, so much so that you might miss them completely. These also come in giant different ranges, from a full-on game of chess to wooden baseball to a tank battle to different forms of races, each with their own little catch. I was truly impressed by everything you can do in this game and how easily they make it look. Speaking of looks, the graphics along with the story themes almost makes it feel like you're playing something out of a Pixar movie, with heart-tugging scenarios and really funny dialogue, putting cute things into extreme situations. As I said before, the gameplay covers many different mechanics, from shooters to 2D platforming, and everything is done extremely well, feeling better than you think the game has the right to. I did have very few slight unresponsive moments, like not starting to shoot right away or a jumping lag, stuff like that, as well as some voiceover desyncs, but nothing too crazy. But alas, the game is not all minigames. Each level is littered with puzzles you have to work together to solve. So at the start of the level, you each get a different tool or weapon. Like for example, one gets a nail gun, the other gets a hammer. One puts the nail on the wall so that the partner can use the hammer to swing to reach to higher places or higher ground, to drop a ladder or push over a bottle or something to help the other join them. The puzzles get more and more creative as you go, as well as the boss battles you encounter, where working as a team is the key. These also come in all sorts of shapes and sizes of creativity, from fighting a stuffed monkey to saving your abandoned potted plant. There's no health bar per se. There are some sections where all of a sudden you get like a 3-hit health bar, but for the most part, if you die, you just respawn. What you can't do is both die at the same time. There are also no lives, so as long as you don't do that, you're cool. The lack of loading screens is also great. This is replaced with a lot of cutscenes. Not so many that it becomes an annoyance, but enough to notice that there's a lot. I know I raved about the exploration. Although there's some exploration to be had, the game is pretty linear because it's all contained in the same level and they manage to fill every nook and cranny of the levels with some kind of detail. But it all funnels towards the direction you need to go. And because it's so exploration friendly, the lack of any collectibles came as a surprise to us. But it didn't really leave a void of anything because again, there's just so much involved in the game. It's just something we noted. As for the difficulty, it's not hard, but there's some parts that require good teamwork and skill or timing, stuff like that. But nothing feels impossible. You just might need a couple tries, but it also doesn't feel easy. It's balanced nicely and really fun. Because there's so many different forms of gameplay, you will be familiar with one of them, and it's easy enough to understand the rest. I will say, without spoiling anything, the ending was a little anticlimactic, gameplay wise. There's no like final boss or anything, you just complete the last level and you're done. While the last thing you do does require some skill and could be considered hard, it just ends like every other level. There's nothing special about it, and the final cutscene just starts to play. But in case you didn't hear me the other 40 times I said it, it's because there's so much and so much of it is different and all of it is done very well. I really can't complain. So does It Takes Two deserve the game of the year? I can see why it can. And I thank the Game Awards for shining a light on a very brave game that said, you know what, I'm gonna do all the games and I'm gonna do them well. And they didn't just give it to the big AAA shiny game, but an indie studio that has now become one that has all eyes on them to see what they come out with next. That's what I thought about It Takes Two. What do you think? Did I miss anything? Did I forget to mention anything? Leave a comment down below letting me know. And don't forget to like the video if you liked it and subscribe. Oh, and if you could share, that'd be great to help out the channel. But most importantly, subscribe and hit the notify bell next to it to be notified every time I drop one of these. And remember, always and forever, you do you.
What have you done?
What? What? Why do you always blame me? Huh?
Yes. Why do you always blame him?
Thank you. Oh! Oh!
What is that?
I'm Dr. Haki, worldwide bestseller and an expert on love.